The grand hall of the Galactic Council gleamed with lights from 1,000 worlds. Ambassadors from across the galaxy gathered here tonight, their different forms and faces creating a sea of alien diversity. Among them stood the humans, newcomers to this ancient gathering. They wore simple black uniforms with the blue earth insignia on their shoulders. Taejin stood near the back of the human delegation, his eyes scanning the room with practiced military precision. He had seen combat on 3 continents back on Earth, fought pirates in the asteroid belt, and survived the Krethian raid on Mars colony. But standing in this room full of species who had explored the stars for thousands of years made him feel small. The Valerian delegation entered last. As befitted their status, they were humanoid but clearly superior in physical form. Taller, stronger, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Their ceremonial armor caught the light like liquid metal. At their center walked Princess Hannah, crown heir to the Valerian Empire. She was beautiful and she knew it. Her presence commanded attention. Every step she took radiated confidence and power. Behind her walked her father, Emperor Daesung, a mountain of a man whose mere presence made others step back. The reception continued with forced politeness. Humans mingled with aliens who barely hid their contempt. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and many species still viewed them as primitive children playing with technology they barely understood. Taejin grabbed a drink from a passing server and found himself near a group of Valerian officers. They spoke in their own language, not bothering to use translators. But Taejin had studied Valerian during the long journey from Earth. He understood every word. "The humans got lucky against the Krethians," one officer said with a laugh. "They stumbled into victory like children finding coins in the street." "Agreed," another replied. "They have no true warriors, no honor. They fight from a distance and run when challenged directly." Taejin felt his jaw tighten. The battle for Mars colony had cost 2,000 human lives, men and women he had known. Friends who died protecting civilians from raiders who would have slaughtered them all. That was not luck. That was sacrifice. He stepped forward. "You are wrong." The Valerian officers turned to stare at him. One laughed. "The monkey speaks our language. How amusing." "I speak 7 languages," Taejin said calmly. "And in all of them, I can tell you that luck had nothing to do with our victory. We won because we adapted, we learned, we refused to die." A voice cut through the gathering like a blade. "Is that so?" Princess Hannah stood before him now, having crossed the room in silence. Up close, she was even more imposing. She stood a full head taller than Taejin, and her golden eyes blazed with something between amusement and anger. "You believe your species is worthy of respect?" she asked. "You, who only yesterday learned to travel between stars? Who have not earned a single battle honor in galactic history?" Taejin met her gaze without flinching. "We are here. We survived first contact. We defended our territory. What more must we prove?" "Everything," Hannah said coldly. "You prove nothing. Your victory was an accident. Your technology is borrowed. Your warriors are untested. You are children who found weapons and think themselves soldiers." The room had gone quiet. Every eye turned toward them. Taejin felt Yuna's hand on his shoulder trying to pull him back. But something in the princess's tone, in her absolute certainty, made him stand his ground. "Then test us," he said quietly. "If you believe we are so inferior, prove it." Hannah's eyes widened slightly. Then she smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator who had found prey. "You challenge me?" she asked. "A human challenges a princess of Velar?" "I challenge your assumptions," Taejin replied. "Back them up or admit they are empty words." The Emperor himself moved forward now. The crowd parted before him like water. "My daughter," he said in a deep voice that carried across the hall, "this human has issued a challenge. How do you respond?" Hannah's smile grew wider. She raised her voice so all could hear. "I invoke the contest of worth, an ancient right of my people. This human and I shall face 3 trials: combat, wisdom, and endurance. The victor proves their superiority beyond all doubt." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The contest of worth was old law, binding under galactic treaty. It could not be refused without dishonor. And the stakes? The Emperor asked. Hannah's eyes never left Taejin's face. If I win, humanity withdraws its petition for council membership for 100 years. They admit Valerian superiority and accept our guidance in all matters of war and diplomacy. The human ambassador gasped. That would destroy Earth's position in the galaxy. They would become vassals, not equals, and if the human wins? The Emperor prompted. Hannah's voice rang out clear and absolute. If he wins, I belong to him. By Valerian law and honor, I become his subordinate in all things. I will serve him as my master until death releases me from this bond. The room erupted in shocked voices. This was beyond anyone's expectations. A princess of an empire wagering herself like a prize. But under Valerian law, once spoken before witnesses, the challenge could not be withdrawn. Emperor Daesung studied Taejin with ancient eyes. Human, do you accept these terms? Win and gain a princess. Lose and doom your species to subservience. Taejin's mind raced. This was insane. He was one soldier, not a diplomat. He had no authority to make such decisions. But he looked around the room at the alien faces, seeing the contempt, the dismissal, the absolute certainty that humans were lesser beings. He thought of his friends who died on Mars, of Earth struggling to find its place among the stars. Sometimes one person had to stand for everyone. I accept, he said. Hannah laughed, the sound like bells. Excellent, we begin in 3 days. That gives you time to prepare for your defeat. She turned to leave, then paused. I almost pity you, human. You have courage, but no understanding of what you face. Still, I will make your defeat swift. It is the only mercy I can offer. As the Valerian delegation swept from the room, Yuna grabbed Taejin's arm. Are you insane? Do you know what you have done? Taejin watched the princes disappear through the doors. I know exactly what I have done. Now I just have to figure out how to win. Around them, the galaxy watched and waited. The human who challenged a princess? Most thought him a fool. Some thought him brave. All agreed he would lose, but Taejin had learned one thing in all his years of combat. Never underestimate what a human can do when backed into a corner. The arena rose from the surface of Velar Prime like an ancient temple. Built from stone that had witnessed 10,000 years of combat, it held 50,000 spectators. Today, every seat was filled. Billions more watched across the galaxy through holographic broadcasts. Taejin stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena floor. His body ached from 3 days of intensive training Dr. Hyen had briefed him on. Valerian physiology with increasingly grim news. They were stronger. Their bones were denser. Their reflexes were faster. Their skin was tougher. In every measurable physical category, they surpassed baseline humans. You cannot beat her in a direct fight, Hyen had said bluntly. She could break your spine with her bare hands. Yuna had been more encouraging. So do not fight directly. You are human. We survive by being smarter, not stronger. Now, standing in his basic kinetic armor and holding a simple staff weapon, Taejin wondered if being smart would be enough. The armor was standard Earth military issue, designed to absorb impact but offering little protection against plasma weapons. The staff was metal, sturdy but primitive compared to Valerian plasma blades. Commander J1 entered the chamber. The Valerian warrior was Hannah's personal combat instructor, a man who had won 300 arena matches without a single defeat. He studied Taejin with professional interest. You have courage, human, J1 said. That is admirable. But courage without skill is merely a quick path to death. The princess has trained since childhood. She has defeated warriors twice your size and experience. Surrender now, and I will speak to the Emperor about mercy for your world. Taejin adjusted his grip on the staff. Thank you for the offer. I decline. J1 nodded slowly. Then die with honor. It is all I can wish for you. The floor trembled. Machinery groaned. Slowly, a platform lifted Taejin toward the arena floor above. Light flooded down, bright and harsh. The roar of the crowd hit him like a physical force. The arena was massive. Sand covered the floor, but scattered throughout were obstacles. Stone pillars. Metal barriers. Ancient weapons mounted on walls as decoration. Tae-jin noted each one, filing them away in his mind. Across the arena, Princess Hannah emerged from the opposite entrance. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed like captured starlight. In each hand she carried a plasma-edged blade that hummed with deadly energy. She moved like a dancer, every step perfect. The crowd cheered her name. Hannah, Hannah, Hannah! An announcer's voice boomed across the arena. The contest of worth begins. First trial, combat. Victory to the one who stands when the other cannot. A horn sounded. The trial began. Hannah moved first, crossing the arena in a sprint that should not have been possible. She closed the distance in seconds. Her blade swept toward Tae-jin's head. He was not there. He had rolled away the moment she started moving, using a stone pillar for cover. The blade cut through empty air where his neck had been. Hannah smiled. Running already? Tae-jin did not waste breath responding. He circled the pillar, keeping it between them. She pursued, matching his movements. They danced around the stone for several seconds, then Hannah simply cut through the pillar. The plasma blade sliced stone like butter. The pillar collapsed. Tae-jin barely avoided being crushed, throwing himself backward, but that was what he wanted. As the pillar fell, it sent up a cloud of dust and debris. Visibility dropped. Tae-jin moved through the dust, silent and quick. Hannah emerged from the dust with her blades ready. She expected him to be running. Instead, he was waiting on top of another pillar. He threw sand directly into her eyes. She snarled and stumbled back, temporarily blinded. Tae-jin dropped from the pillar and slammed his staff into the back of her knee. It would have shattered a human's leg. On Hannah, it merely made her stumble, but a stumble was enough. Tae-jin pressed his advantage, not with power but with precision. He struck at joints and pressure points. He used the staff to control distance, to redirect her strikes. To stay alive one more second. The crowd's cheers turned to confused murmurs. This was not how arena combat worked. There was no honor in these tactics. No direct challenge. Just survival. Hannah wiped the sand from her eyes and attacked with renewed fury. Her blades became a whirlwind of light and death. Tae-jin gave ground, retreating across the arena. One blade caught his shoulder, cutting through armor and flesh. Pain exploded through him. He fell back against the arena wall. Hannah advanced, confident in her victory. Tae-jin reached up and grabbed one of the ancient weapons mounted as decoration. A heavy war hammer, ceremonial but still functional. He threw it not at Hannah but at her feet. She leaped back instinctively. In that moment, Tae-jin moved. He grabbed sand, threw it again. Then he ran not away but past her. Rolling under her guard, this pattern continued for what felt like hours but was only minutes. Tae-jin took hits. His armor cracked. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. His ribs screamed in agony. But he stayed standing. And slowly Hannah began to tire. Not much, but enough. Her strikes became slightly slower. Her breathing grew heavier. She had trained for direct combat, for overwhelming opponents with superior strength and skill. She had never fought someone who simply refused to fight her way. Frustration crept into her attacks. She became aggressive, taking risks. That was what Tae-jin had been waiting for. Hannah lunged forward with both blades aimed at his chest. Tae-jin sidestepped at the last possible instant. Her momentum carried her past him. He brought his staff down hard on her wrist. The impact jarred the blade from her hand. Before she could recover, he swept her legs. The Princess of Velar crashed into the sand. Tae-jin planted his staff across her throat, not pressing hard enough to harm but making his point clear. With his other hand, he grabbed her fallen blade. The arena went silent. Yield? Tae-jin said quietly. Hannah stared up at him, golden eyes wide with shock. She still held one blade. She could fight. But they both knew the outcome now. He had beaten her not through strength but through patience. Through tactics she had never encountered. I yield, she whispered. Tae-jin stepped back, releasing her. He dropped the plasma blade and offered his hand instead. Hannah stared at the offered hand for a long moment. Then slowly she took it. He pulled her to her feet. The arena remained silent for 3 heartbeats. Then Emperor Daesung stood in the royal box. The first trial goes to the human. Let the record show that Taejin of Earth has defeated Princess Hannah in honorable combat. The crowd erupted in confused cheering. This was not the outcome anyone expected. Taejin bowed to the emperor. Then to Hannah. She said nothing, but her eyes followed him as he limped toward the exit. There was no more contempt in that gaze. Only questions. In the medical chamber, Yuna rushed to his side as doctors began treating his wounds. "You crazy, magnificent idiot," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "You actually won?" Taejin winced as they sealed the cut on his shoulder. "One trial down. 2 to go. Can you survive 2 more of these?" He thought of Hannah's face when she yielded. The shock. The beginning of respect. "I have to. For Earth." But in truth, something had changed in that arena. This was no longer just about Earth's place in the galaxy. It had become personal. He had challenged a princess and proven humans could stand against anyone. Now he had to finish what he started. Outside, the galaxy watched and reconsidered what they thought they knew about humans. The strategic simulation chamber occupied an entire floor of the Imperial Palace. Holographic projectors filled the space, capable of creating entire star systems in miniature. For centuries, Valerian military commanders had used this room to test their tactical skills. Against impossible scenarios, Taejin entered with his wounds still healing. The medical team had done good work, but his ribs ached with every breath. Hannah stood already in the chamber, studying the holographic displays with intense focus. She wore simple military uniform rather than ceremonial armor. When she turned to look at him, something in her expression had changed. The absolute certainty was gone, replaced by wary respect. "Human," she acknowledged with a small nod. "Princess," he replied. Emperor Daesung entered with a delegation of military advisors. Admiral Su-jin walked beside him, a woman who had commanded fleets for 40 years and never lost a battle. Her face bore the marks of old combat scars, badges of honor in Valerian culture. "The second trial tests wisdom," the emperor announced. "Both contestants will face the same tactical scenario. They will present their solutions to the council. The superior strategy wins." Admiral Su-jin stepped forward. "The scenario is known as the Broken Shield. It has challenged our finest commanders for 3 generations. None have found a truly satisfactory solution." She activated the holographic display. A star system materialized in the air. One planet glowed green, marking a colony world. Around it, red dots appeared. Many red dots. "The situation," Su-jin explained. "You command the defense of colony world Terran, population of 2 million. You have 1 orbital defense platform, 3 light cruisers, and a garrison of 5,000 troops. The enemy fleet consists of 20 capital ships, 50 cruisers, and countless fighters. They will arrive in 6 hours. Retreat is impossible. Reinforcements cannot arrive in time. Present your strategy." Taejin studied the display. The numbers were overwhelming. This was not a scenario designed to be won. It was designed to test how a commander faced certain defeat. "You have 4 hours to prepare," the emperor said. "Princess Hannah will present first." The next 4 hours passed in silence. Hannah worked at one console while Taejin worked at another. Occasionally, he would glance over and see her moving ships, repositioning troops, running simulations. Each time, the results were the same, defeat. But the princess's face showed determination, not despair. Taejin approached the problem differently. He did not start with military assets. He started with the colony itself. What was Terran? What resources did it have? What made it valuable? The answers came slowly. Terran was an industrial colony, manufacturing, processing, storage facilities full of volatile materials, fuel refineries, chemical plants. An idea began to form. "Time is up," Admiral Su-jin announced. "Princess Hannah, present your strategy." Hannah stepped to the center of the chamber. With confidence born from years of military training, she manipulated the holographic display. "I recognize that victory in traditional terms is impossible. Therefore, my strategy focuses on honor and preservation of life where possible. Her plan unfolded in the display. She positioned the defense platform and cruisers in a defensive formation around the planet. The garrison would defend key cities. When the enemy broke through, which they inevitably would, the troops would conduct fighting retreat into prepared positions. My strategy prioritizes civilian evacuation, Hannah explained. Using every transport available, we can evacuate 800,000 civilians before the enemy arrives. The remaining population takes shelter in underground facilities. Our military forces fight to give them time. We cannot win, but we can die with honor and save lives in the process. Projected survival rate of the colony population is 40%. The Valerian military advisors nodded approvingly. It was a good strategy, given the impossible circumstances. Honor in defeat. Maximum lives saved. A worthy end for warriors. Emperor Daesung turned to Taejin. Human, present your strategy. Taejin stood. His hands shook slightly, whether from pain or nervousness he could not tell. He approached the holographic display. With respect to the princess's strategy, I reject the premise of the scenario. Confused murmurs rippled through the advisors. Admiral Sujin frowned. Explain. This scenario assumes we must defend Terran. I choose not to defend it. He manipulated the display. I'd begin by evacuating everyone. All 2 million civilians. Every transport, every ship, every vessel that can carry people leaves immediately. Impossible, an advisor said. There is insufficient transport capacity. Then we make capacity. Strip the cruisers of weapons to make room for people. Use cargo ships, mining vessels, everything. It will be crowded, uncomfortable, and dangerous. But possible. Evacuation completes in 5 hours. He continued, showing ships departing the planet, carrying humanity's most precious resource, the people themselves. While evacuation proceeds, we prepare Terran. The fuel refineries contain enough explosive material to destroy a moon. The chemical plants process compounds that become weapons in the right combinations. The manufacturing facilities can be overloaded to catastrophic failure. We turn the entire colony into a trap. The display showed his plan. Strategic placement of explosives. Rigged facilities. Bait left in key locations to draw the enemy fleet into specific positions. When the enemy arrives, they find an empty world. No defenders to fight. No civilians to conquer. Just empty cities and abandoned facilities. But their intelligence tells them Terran has value, so they will land occupation forces to claim it. They will move their ships into optimal positions for landing. They will concentrate their forces. His finger touched the display. Explosions bloomed across the planet. Chain reactions spread. The orbital defense platform, set to overload, detonated like a small star. The enemy fleet, positioned perfectly around the planet, caught in an expanding wave of destruction. Terran destroys itself and takes the enemy fleet with it. Every capital ship gone. Most of the cruisers. The fighters have no carriers to return to. Without the fleet, the enemy invasion of this sector collapses. We lose 1 planet but save 10 others. Final result: 0 friendly casualties, complete enemy fleet destruction, strategic victory for our side. Silence filled the chamber. The advisors stared at the display showing the dead planet and the destroyed enemy fleet. This is dishonorable, one advisor finally said. There is no courage in running, no glory in destruction. There is also no death, Taejin replied quietly. 2 million people live. The enemy loses everything, which has more honor, dying bravely or winning completely. Admiral Sujin stepped forward, studying the display with narrowed eyes. This is not how we fight. This is cruel. The enemy expects warriors to face them. You give them only death from an empty world. War is cruel, Taejin said. My people learned that lesson many times. We learned that survival matters more than glory. That protecting your people is the highest duty. That winning ugly is better than losing beautifully. Emperor Daesung studied both displays in silence. Then he spoke, his voice carrying weight of centuries of tradition. Admiral Sujin, by our military doctrine, which strategy is superior? The admiral's face showed her distaste, but her voice remained professional. The human strategy achieves complete victory with 0 casualties. By the objective measure of military success, it is superior. Then the second trial goes to the human Taejin. The announcement sent shockwaves through the advisors. Hannah stared at the display showing the dead planet. Her strategy had been honorable, brave, traditional. His had been ruthless, efficient, alien in its thinking. "There is no honor in this victory," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "There is no honor in needless death either," Taejin replied. "I mean no disrespect to your traditions, princess. But where I come from, we measure honor by different standards. Protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Doing what must be done, even when it is hard. Choosing life over glory." Hannah turned to face him fully. "You fight without honor. You win without glory. You save everyone and call it wisdom. This is not the warrior's path." "No," Taejin agreed. "It is the survivor's path. And survival is what humans do best." The emperor raised his hand for silence. "The trial is concluded. 2 victories for the human. 1 trial remains." He fixed Taejin with a measuring look. "You challenge everything we believe about warfare and honor. This troubles many of my people, but results cannot be denied. You stand where you should have fallen twice. I begin to understand why your species survived long enough to reach the stars." As the gathering dispersed, Hannah approached Taejin. "The final trial is in 3 days. It will test endurance. This is my strength. You cannot surprise me again with tactics and cleverness. It will be pure determination, and in this I am superior." Taejin met her eyes. "Maybe, but I will not quit. That is what humans do. We keep going when everyone else stops." "Then we will see," Hannah said. Something in her voice suggested she was no longer certain of easy victory. 2 trials completed. 1 remained. The galaxy watched in amazement as a human proved equal to a princess. But the hardest test still waited ahead. The death peaks rose from Velar Prime like the teeth of some ancient god. Ice and stone reached toward a sky that held too little oxygen for human lungs. Young Valerians came here to prove their worth. Many succeeded. Some died. The mountain kept a tally measured in frozen corpses that would never be recovered. Taejin stood at the base of the mountain, as wind cut through his thermal suit like knives. The suit was the best Earth technology could provide, but it felt inadequate against the brutal cold. His breath came short in the thin air. The medical team had given him supplements to help his blood carry oxygen, but his body was not designed for this environment. Hannah stood beside him, breathing easily despite the altitude. She wore lighter gear than him and seemed comfortable. She had climbed these peaks dozens of times. To her, this was home territory. Guide Minji approached, an old Valerian whose face was weathered by countless expeditions. "The route to the summit is marked with beacons. Follow them. The weather is currently stable, but storms can appear with little warning. If a storm comes, take shelter immediately. The mountain kills those who show it disrespect." "How long to reach the summit?" Taejin asked, his voice slightly breathless. "For an experienced climber, 2 days. For a human," Minji shrugged. "If you are still alive in 4 days, I will be impressed." Medical Officer Yan attached monitors to Taejin's suit. "I will track your vitals from base camp. If your oxygen levels drop too low or your heart rate becomes dangerous, I am pulling you out whether you agree or not." "Understood," Taejin said. Emperor Daesung observed from a heated shelter. "The rules are simple. First to reach the summit and return wins the trial. Any questions?" Hannah shook her head. Taejin remained silent. "Then begin." They started up the mountain as dawn broke over Velar Prime. At first, the path was steep but manageable. Hannah moved ahead quickly, her superior physiology showing immediately. She climbed with practiced efficiency, finding handholds and routes that Taejin struggled to match. By midday, she was an hour ahead. Taejin forced himself to maintain steady pace. Not fast, but consistent. His lungs burned. His muscles ached. But he kept moving. The first day passed in grinding hardship. Hannah reached the first rest station as the sun set. Taejin arrived 2 hours later, exhausted. They slept in separate emergency shelters. Small heated pods designed for climbers dot through the thin walls. Taejin heard Hannah preparing for the next day's climb. She sounded fresh, energetic. He felt like death. Every muscle screamed. His head pounded from altitude sickness despite the supplements. He forced down food and water, knowing he would need every bit of energy. Taejin, Yun's voice came through his communicator. Your oxygen levels are concerning. Consider withdrawing, not an option, he replied. Then be careful. Your body is not built for this. The second day was worse. The path grew steeper, more treacherous. Ice made every step dangerous. The wind picked up, howling across the mountain like something alive and angry. Taejin's progress slowed to a crawl. Hannah pulled further ahead. By noon, she was 3 hours in front and still moving strong. Then the weather changed. Dark clouds rolled over the peaks with impossible speed. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in minutes. Wind became a living force trying to tear climbers from the mountain. Snow reduced visibility to nothing. Taejin heard the warning over his communicator. Major storm incoming. All climbers take shelter immediately. This is not a drill. He looked around desperately. The nearest shelter beacon was 30 meters ahead, barely visible through the snow. He pushed forward, fighting wind that threatened to lift him off his feet. Something moved in the storm ahead. A figure stumbling, moving wrong. Taejin's training kicked in. Someone was in trouble. He activated his communicator. Hannah, do you copy? There is a storm. Where are you? Static answered him. The storm interfered with communications. Taejin pressed forward toward the figure. As he got closer, he recognized the build, the way she moved. Hannah, something was wrong. She stumbled again, fell to one knee. He reached her side. Princess, what happened? Her face was pale even for a Valerian. Blood stained her leg. Fell, she said through gritted teeth. Ledge collapsed. Something broke? Trying to reach shelter, but she did not finish. Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. Taejin caught her before she hit the ground. He checked her leg quickly. Bad break, bone visible through the suit. She was going into shock. In this cold, shock would kill her fast. He looked ahead to the shelter beacon, then back down the mountain. The smart move was obvious. Leave her, reach shelter, survive. Then he would win the trial. Earth's position in the galaxy would be secure, but she would die. The storm would not clear for hours. She could not move with that leg. Even if she regained consciousness, she would freeze before help arrived. Taejin made his decision in seconds. He activated his communicator, hoping someone could hear. Medical emergency. Princess Hannah is injured. I am taking her to shelter. He pulled Hannah onto his back, feeling the weight immediately. She was tall, muscular, heavy. In Earth's gravity, he could have managed. Here, in thin air, injured and exhausted, it was almost impossible. He moved anyway. Step by agonizing step, carrying her toward the shelter beacon. The wind fought him. The cold sank claws into his body. His oxygen levels dropped into the red zone. Yun's voice screamed warnings in his ear, but he ignored them. 10 meters, 5. His vision narrowed to a tunnel. His legs stopped obeying properly. He fell twice, barely managing to protect Hannah from the impact. Then his hand touched the shelter door. He dragged them both inside. The door sealed behind them. Heat began to flow from emergency systems. Taejin collapsed beside Hannah, gasping for air. His oxygen meter flashed critical. He fumbled with the emergency medical kit, pulling out supplies with numb fingers. First, stop the bleeding. He applied pressure, sealed the wound with gel foam, injected her with painkillers and anti-shock medication. Then he stabilized the leg with a splint from the kit. Only after Hannah was stable did he address his own condition. He cranked his oxygen feed to maximum and lay still, letting his body recover. Hours passed. The storm raged outside. Eventually, Hana's eyes opened. She looked around in confusion, then down at her splinted leg. Her gaze found Tae-jin sitting against the opposite wall, watching her. "You saved me," she said slowly. "Yes, you could have won. Should have won. Why?" Tae-jin was quiet for a moment. "Because winning is not worth your death. Because some things matter more than contests or pride or even my world's future. You are a person, not an obstacle. I could not leave you." Hana stared at him with an expression he could not read. "This makes no sense. Everything I know says you should have continued. That victory must come first. That personal survival comes second. This is what warriors do." "I am not a warrior," Tae-jin said. "I am a soldier." "There is a difference. Warriors seek glory. Soldiers seek to protect. You are not my enemy, princess. You are just someone I happen to be competing against. That does not mean I want you dead, but the trial can wait until you are safe and the storm passes. Then we climb together or not at all." They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Hana spoke again. "I do not understand humans. You fight without honor. You win without glory. And now you sacrifice victory for an enemy's life. What strange creatures you are." "Maybe," Tae-jin said. "Or maybe we just have different definitions of honor. Is it more honorable to let someone die so you can win a contest? Or to save them even if it costs you everything?" Hana had no answer. The storm cleared on the third day. Rescue teams arrived to extract Hana. As they prepared to carry her down the mountain, she grabbed Tae-jin's arm. "I declare the third trial a draw," she announced. "Neither of us reached the summit. The rules say nothing about what happens in a draw, so I am invoking my authority as challenger to declare it even. Do you accept?" Tae-jin nodded. "I accept. But know this, human. You have already won something more important than this trial. You have won my respect. That is not given easily." As they descended the mountain together, Tae-jin realized the contest had changed. It was no longer about proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. It had become something personal between him and Hana, understanding, maybe even friendship. One trial remained, but the outcome no longer seemed as important as it once had. The Imperial throne room was designed to impress and intimidate. Columns of dark stone rose to a ceiling lost in shadows. The throne itself was carved from a single piece of crystal that seemed to glow with inner light. Around the room stood representatives from 100 worlds, all gathered to witness the conclusion of the contest of worth. Tae-jin stood before the Emperor, his body still aching from the mountain climb. Beside him, Hana leaned on a support cane, her legs still healing. 2 trials won, 1 drawn. The contest should proceed to a final challenge. But something felt different today. Emperor Daesung sat upon his throne with an expression of deep thought. He had watched his daughter face a human 3 times now. He had seen her lose, seen her adapt, seen her grow. The pride and certainty she once carried had transformed into something more complex. "Before we proceed to the final trial," the Emperor began, "Chancellor Beora has requested to address this gathering. I have granted permission." A Valerian official stepped forward. Chancellor Beora was old, powerful, and until now had remained silent during the contest. Her face showed no emotion as she faced the assembled crowd. "I speak today with a heavy heart," Beora said. "This contest has captured the attention of the galaxy. It has made Princess Hana a symbol and the human Tae-jin a curiosity. But I must speak truth that others fear to voice. This contest was a mistake." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Hana's hand tightened on her cane. "If the human wins," Beora continued, "Princess Hana becomes his property. The crown heir of our empire reduced to serving a creature from a primitive world. This humiliates not just her, but all Valerians. Our military factions already speak of refusing such an outcome. Some talk of war." She turned to face Tae-jin directly. "And if the princess wins, Earth loses its place in the galactic community for a century. Humanity becomes subservient to our empire. But humans have shown themselves to be proud, stubborn creatures. They will not accept this peacefully. Either outcome leads to conflict and suffering. The Chancellor's voice grew cold. Therefore, I propose a third option. Void the contest. Declare it null due to unforeseen political complications. Both parties walk away with honor intact. And how would this be accomplished? Emperor Daesung asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. The simplest solution, Bo-Ra said. If both contestants were to die in an unfortunate accident, the contest ends with no victor. Earth maintains its council petition. Velar maintains its honor. A tragedy, certainly, but one that prevents greater tragedy. The room erupted in shocked voices. Tae-Jin felt Yuna's hand on his weapon at his side. Hannah straightened despite her injury, fury blazing in her golden eyes. You speak of murdering the crown princess, Hannah said with deadly calm. This is treason. This is necessity, Bo-Ra replied. I am not alone in this thinking. Many share my concerns. Some have already taken action. As if summoned by her words, armed figures emerged from the shadows around the room. Not many, perhaps 20, but they moved with military precision. They wore Valerian armor, but no identifying marks. Mercenaries or dishonored soldiers, Tae-Jin guessed. People who would kill for money or ideology? Stand down, Emperor Daesung commanded, his voice thundering through the hall. I am your emperor. You will obey. We serve the empire, not the throne, one of the armed figures replied. And the empire's future is more important than one princess or one emperor. Everything happened at once. The assassins moved. Palace guards rushed to protect the emperor. Chaos exploded through the throne room. Tae-Jin grabbed Hannah and pulled her behind a pillar as plasma fire scorched the air where they had stood. She hissed in pain as the movement jarred her injured leg. Can you fight? He asked. I can barely stand, she admitted. My leg will not support combat. Then stay here. I will handle this. They came for both of us, human. We face this together. More plasma fire struck near them. Tae-Jin counted the attackers. 20 against the palace guards, with civilians caught in the crossfire. The guards were skilled but surprised? This would get bloody fast. He pulled a weapon from a fallen guard. Basic plasma pistol, half charged. Not ideal, but better than nothing. Hannah grabbed a blade from the wall, one of the ceremonial weapons that decorated the throne room. We need to reach the emperor, Tae-Jin said. He is the target they want most. They moved together through the chaos. Tae-Jin provided covering fire while Hannah, despite her injury, used the blade to deflect incoming shots. They fought back to back, each covering the other's weaknesses. An assassin rushed them. Tae-Jin shot him in the leg, dropping him. Another came from the side. Hannah's blade found his throat despite her unsteady stance. They moved like they had trained together for years, though they had fought against each other only days before. Left, Hannah shouted. Tae-Jin dropped and rolled. Plasma passed over his head. He returned fire, taking down the shooter. They reached the emperor's position. Daesung stood surrounded by guards, his own weapon drawn. He nodded acknowledgement as they joined the defensive circle. Chancellor Bo-Ra has fled, the emperor said. These assassins are her tools, but without her they have no leadership. Then we survive until reinforcements arrive, Tae-Jin said. An assassin threw a grenade. Tae-Jin kicked it back before it detonated, sending 3 attackers flying. Hannah used the distraction to strike down 2 more who tried to flank their position. Lieutenant Jinwoo, Tae-Jin's friend from Earth, burst into the throne room with a squad of human security forces. We heard fighting. What do you need? Secure the exits, Tae-Jin called back. Do not let anyone escape. The battle turned. With reinforcements and no escape route, the assassins began to surrender. Within minutes it was over. Bodies littered the ancient throne room. Smoke filled the air. But the emperor stood alive, as did Hannah and Tae-Jin. Chancellor Bo-Ra was found attempting to reach a hidden escape route. She was captured and brought before the emperor in chains. You have committed treason, Daesung said coldly. You sought to murder my daughter and plunge our empire into chaos. What have you to say? I sought to prevent disaster, Bo-Ra replied without remorse. This contest is poison. Let it end now, before more damage is done. The contest will end, the Emperor agreed. But on my terms, not yours. He turned to face Hana and Taejin, who stood side by side, both wounded, both alive because they had protected each other. I have watched this contest from the beginning, Daesung said. I watched my daughter, so certain of her superiority, face defeat. I watched her question everything she believed. And I watched a human show courage, wisdom, and mercy in equal measure. But today I saw something more important. He gestured to where they stood together. Today I saw two people who should be rivals fight as allies. I saw my daughter and this human protect each other without hesitation. That bond, forged through trials, is worth more than any contest victory. Father? Hana asked, confusion in her voice. The contest is concluded, the Emperor declared. Not by victory of one over the other, but by transformation of both. Taejin of Earth, you have proven humanity's worth beyond question. No one can doubt your people's place among the stars after what you have accomplished. He looked at his daughter. Hana, you swore that if you lost, you would belong to the human. I watched you prepare to honor that oath even though it would destroy you. But I am Emperor, and I can modify the terms of any contest in the interests of the Empire. Modify how? Hana asked carefully. You swore to belong to him. Very well, but belonging need not mean subservience. It can mean partnership. It can mean standing beside rather than beneath. The Emperor's stern face softened slightly. It can mean alliance between equals. He raised his voice to address the entire gathering. I propose a new arrangement. Princess Hana and Taejin of Earth shall form a formal alliance. She will serve as ambassador to humanity, and he as ambassador to our empire. Together, they will forge bonds between our peoples. This fulfills the spirit of the contest while serving both our interests. Silence filled the throne room. Then slowly Hana began to smile. It was not the proud, cruel smile she had worn when first challenging Taejin. It was genuine, warm, and perhaps a little surprised. Father, you are wiser than I gave you credit for, she said. Then she turned to Taejin. What say you, human? Will you accept an ally instead of a servant? It is far less dramatic, but probably more useful. Taejin thought of everything that had happened. The fights, the trials, the mountain, and finally this battle where they had protected each other without question. He thought about what he had learned from Hana and what she might have learned from him. I accept, he said. With one condition. You stop calling me human and use my name. Hana laughed, the sound lighter than he had ever heard from her. Very well, Taejin. And you will call me Hana, no more princes unless in formal settings? Emperor Daesung looked satisfied. Then it is done. Let it be recorded that the contest of worth has concluded with an outcome unprecedented in our history. Not dominance but partnership. Not victory but mutual respect. He fixed them both with a serious gaze. You two have much work ahead. Our peoples are different in many ways. But today you proved that differences can be strength rather than weakness. Do not fail in this. We will not, they said together, then looked at each other in surprise and smiled.